Hello and welcome to our daily sketching routine. It is Monday, February 3rd, 2025, and today's topic will be sketching the head and figure. And before we begin, welcome back if you're returning, and welcome if you're new to the channel. I sketch and post every day, and I use timers to stay focused and build a habit. So that's the main purpose, is to build a habit, a sketching practice. I'll start a 10-minute timer. And this week, I got an early start this weekend to this week's theme of figure drawing deep dive. I mean, it's a lifelong thing, so I still learn stuff. So for example, this is where I ended up with this sketch, and I'll post a link to yesterday's video. But basically, it's over the past several days, and it's going to be for the next several days. I'll just keep drawing figures, focusing on just different areas, and this is just one pose, but the main thing is to be able to draw from imagination. A lot of this initially started from studies from reference. After a while, then you know how to construct things from imagination. So today I'm going to talk about drawing the head as it relates to the figure. One, you can't rush. That's one thing that's why I'm deep diving. So on this page, I've been using a ballpoint pen, which I don't usually use. And it's pretty fun. Like, it has a pretty cool look. And I did go in with this white paint to kind of pick out the highlights, and plus, like all the construction lines and stuff. I wanted to go over different methods of drawing the head and the figure, and specifically making it like work together. So you can see, for example, even in the stick figures, even in these kind of preliminary sketches and like thumbnails, and then in a more sort of finished drawing, the head is attached correctly and like with the rest of the body and stuff. It could help, for example, to think about it in terms of like portraiture versus figure drawing, which is kind of different. So for example, the Loomis method, pretty common these days. Let me take this one, and I'm just going to keep using the ballpoint pen. I kind of like it, honestly. The reason the Loomis method is effective is because for portraiture, you'll see like a lot of people using this, and I do too. I mean, because it's helpful. So I'm just going to go off of this, and I'm going to figure out like the angle of the face. So for portraiture, this is helpful. So you can just set up like the form this way. And yeah, like if you're doing like a portrait, it's pretty good. Like, it works. So what you can do is just take this, because sometimes it's good to draw it like loose, like not big. Like if you were trying to do a figure drawing like kind of big, sometimes it's hard to get the proportion. Sometimes you want to do like a thumbnail and then a little bit more and then zoom in, which is also good for comics, by the way. So to practice this kind of thing, I mean, this is a pretty popular thing to practice, which is look at portraits and just use this method to construct the head. So kind of like that, and that's how you get the forms correct. Yeah, and then once you have this much, you can kind of just look up a photo of somebody and get the details. Or you can have like a character over here. So part of this is I'm just wanting to fill this page. So in this space right here, maybe I'll take this one, but like zoom in. So to do that would be a good example, because when you draw this, you're just going to start with like the head, the form here, with like all the proportions and stuff, which I explain in other videos and other people, and So you could just look that up. He explains it the best. It's easier, for me anyway, to draw a circle and then kind of build off of that, like the rest of the figure. So for example, if I do this, like I'm going to zoom in to like this, let's make it a little bit bigger, like that. So for me, it's easier to like draw a circle in proportion to relate it to the rest of the body. Like the shoulders, or like the clavicle, or the like the shoulder area isn't sitting right on top of the rib cage, because the rib cage is like this. So I'm copying this pose right here. And yeah, so for me, it's easier to do circles in proportion and then add on to it and then like modify like the sphere, if you will, rather than like the egg shape or like a elliptical shape, but to have it more like realistic, I guess, kind of like this. From the circle, then depending on like the pose of the head, like this one is kind of a profile. You just have to think about like where the face would be and realize that like the neck, this is like the spine, is attached to the skull, like the cranium, like the base of the cranium. So like you have to add, but that depends on like the pose, and I'll go into more detail about it, but like that's the basic idea. So that's how you can zoom in on this and like attach the head correctly onto the body. But take your time with it. There's no, I mean, it takes practice. And then as far as like all the proportions, I mean, that's why it's good to kind of just learn different proportions. And I mean, faces look different, obviously. But it's kind of fun to use a ballpoint pen, actually. Especially if you can go in with white paint and fix things. So that's one way to zoom in. And if you wanted to zoom in even more than this, then yeah, I'd probably just switch to like a portrait and just start with the head rather than try to start with like the figure. I'll do another example, like right here maybe, because the idea is that sometimes, kind of like this, sometimes you're going to start with like the figure. So what I'm going to do here is do kind of a back view, because I also want to do some different poses, like from different angles, and also like the male figure and stuff. So that's why it's a deep dive. So yeah, like sometimes you need to start with like the pose. So let's say it's kind of a back view, kind of like this, maybe. So that's kind of what I mean, like if you have a back view, then for me it's easier to get the proportion correct from like a circle. So I'm attaching the head onto the body. So this is more figure drawing than portraiture. And then from here, depending on the pose, because since the circle, I mean, part of it is also obviously the anatomy. Your head can only turn like so much. But yeah, from here, same kind of thing. Like, just attach like the face. There's the other thing about kind of like the resolution. I mean, if it's a thumbnail, then treat it like it's a thumbnail. So don't try to put so much detail. Just kind of give yourself like an idea of what's happening, and then you would like, don't spend too much time detailing it, and then just draw. Like if you need to zoom in, you can. There's just different levels of detail. So for example, here you can actually go in and add like eyelashes and whatnot and have more detail that way. But that's the importance of knowing like how to construct, so that you can just draw anything really. Now, the human figure has a lot of, like, it's just a really useful thing to know how to draw, because basically whatever you learn from drawing the human figure is going to be useful for other things. That's basically what I wanted to go over today, was sort of the difference between kind of like a portrait where you start with the head and then the rest of the body is sort of not that detailed, but it helps to know how to do figure drawing, versus starting with the figure and then attaching the head, and also just being able to draw at different sizes and different levels of detail. Yeah, like with that said, I want to wrap up this video and thank you for joining me for today's daily sketching routine. Hopefully you come back, and if you do like these videos, please support the channel. I appreciate it. And until next time, keep on sketching.